The man on the news was being called a hero, but his own family thought he was a criminal. Before we start, join our YouTube family by subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to like this video and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Now let's get into the story. The first time anyone in his family heard his name in years, it wasn't at a dinner table. It wasn't during a birthday call. It wasn't even whispered in regret. It came from a television. A breaking news alert. And for a second, just 1 second, no one moved. The anchor's voice trembled slightly, like even she wasn't sure how to say it. We are receiving reports about a man being called a hero tonight. A man who, according to witnesses, risked his life without hesitation. The camera cut to shaky footage, flashing lights, smoke in the background, sirens screaming into the night. And then a stretcher, a man lying on it, unconscious, covered in ash and blood, his face barely visible under the oxygen mask. But still, recognizable. Across a quiet living room, a glass slipped from someone's hand and shattered on the floor. Wait, no, that can't be. The remote fell next. Silence filled the room, because they knew that face. They just hadn't seen it in years. 5 years earlier, Ethan Cole stood outside his childhood home, staring at a door he used to walk through without knocking. Now his hand hovered in the air. Not knocking, not leaving, just stuck. The porch light flickered above him. Same as always. Nothing had changed, except everything had. He finally knocked. Soft at first, then a little louder. Footsteps approached from inside. Slow, careful. The door opened halfway. His mother stood there. Same face, same eyes, but something behind them was missing. She blinked like she was trying to remember where she'd seen him before. "Can I help you?" she asked. Those 5 words hit harder than anything he'd prepared for. Ethan forced a small smile. "Mom, it's me." Her expression didn't change right away. It just froze, like her brain was catching up to what her eyes were seeing. "Ethan?" she said, unsure. He nodded. For a moment, he thought she might hug him. She didn't. Instead, she stepped back slightly, like she wasn't sure if she should let him in. You didn't call," she said quietly. "I tried," he replied. "You didn't pick up." She looked down, avoiding his eyes. "Well, we've been busy." Busy. He almost laughed. 5 years. Reduced to that one word. "Can I come in?" he asked. There was a pause, just long enough to say everything. Then she stepped aside. "Your father's in the living room." Ethan walked in slowly. The house smelled the same. Coffee. Old wood. A hint of something burnt from the kitchen. It felt like stepping into a memory that didn't want him anymore. His father sat in his usual chair. TV on. Volume low. He didn't turn around. "I heard," his father said. Ethan stopped. He hadn't even said anything yet. "Heard what?" "That you're back." Ethan swallowed. "Yeah." Silence stretched between them. Thick, heavy. Finally, his father looked over his shoulder. And when their eyes met, there was no anger. No warmth either. Just distance. "Why?" his father asked. That one word carried years of unanswered questions. Ethan didn't have a clean answer. "I just needed to come home." His father nodded slowly, but it didn't look like he believed him. "You made your choice," he said. "We all did." Ethan felt something tighten in his chest. "I didn't choose to disappear." "No," his father replied, turning fully now. "Because from where we were standing, that's exactly what it looked like." Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it again. Because arguing felt pointless. Because maybe they weren't entirely wrong. You see, Ethan hadn't always been the forgotten son. There was a time when everything about him felt certain. He was the one who stayed late helping his dad fix things around the house. The one who made his mom laugh when she was stressed. The one his younger sister followed around like he was some kind of hero. But then life shifted. Quietly at first, then all at once. It started with a job, a big opportunity. Something he thought would finally prove he wasn't just average. Something that would make his family proud. It took him out of town, then out of state, then further. Calls became texts. Texts became silence. And then one day, nothing. No explanation. No goodbye. Just gone. At least that's how his family saw it. But the truth? It wasn't that simple. It never was. Back in the living room, his mother placed a cup of coffee in front of him. Same mug he used years ago. She sat across from him. Not too close. Not too far. "So, how long are you staying?" she asked. "I don't know yet." Another pause. "You look different," she said. He nodded. "Yeah, life does that." She gave a small awkward smile, but her eyes kept studying him, like she was searching for something, or maybe trying to confirm something. "Are you okay?" she asked. That question almost broke him, because the honest answer? No, he wasn't. Not even close. But he just said yeah, because it was easier, because explaining the truth would mean opening doors. He wasn't ready to walk through again. That night, Ethan sat alone in his old room. It hadn't changed much. Posters still on the wall, desk in the corner. Even the small crack in the window he never fixed. It was like time had paused here, waiting for him. But he wasn't the same person who left. He leaned back against the wall and closed his eyes. And for a moment, memories came rushing in. A loud argument. His father's voice raised higher than he'd ever heard before.
"You're throwing your life away!"
"I'm trying to build one."
"Not like this!"
Then, silence. A door slamming, footsteps walking away, and no one stopping him. That was the last time he saw them. Until now. Days passed, and nothing really changed. His parents were polite, distant, like he was a guest, not their son. His sister didn't even come to see him. "She's busy," his mom said. Busy. That word again. Ethan stopped asking after that, because every answer felt like a wall. One evening, while cleaning out his old closet, he found something. A box, small, taped shut. He didn't remember packing it. Slowly, he opened it. Inside, photos, letters, and a newspaper clipping. His hands froze, because the headline had his name on it. But it wasn't from now. It was from years ago. And as he unfolded it, his heart started pounding. Because whatever was written there, it was something his family had never mentioned. Something they had never asked him about. Something that might explain why they stopped looking for him, why they let him disappear, and why they acted like he never existed. Ethan stared at the page, his hands shaking slightly. Because deep down, he already knew. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was something else. Something bigger, something darker. And as his eyes scanned the first line, everything inside him went cold. Because the story they believed about him wasn't just wrong. It was dangerous, and someone had made sure it stayed that way. But the worst part, that same story was about to come back. Louder than ever, on a screen, for the whole world to see. And this time, no one would be able to ignore it. Ethan didn't realize how long he'd been staring at that newspaper clipping. Minutes, maybe more. The paper felt fragile in his hands, like it might fall apart if he pressed too hard. But it wasn't the paper that scared him. It was the words. He read them again, then again. Like maybe they'd change. Like maybe he misunderstood. But they didn't. They stayed exactly the same. And every line felt like it was written about a stranger, wearing his name. Local man suspected in financial fraud disappears overnight. Ethan's jaw tightened. Below the headline was a blurry photo. Him, walking out of a building, head slightly down, caught mid-step. Like someone had been waiting for that exact moment. The article painted a clean story. Too clean. A rising employee. Trusted. Responsible. Then suddenly, money goes missing. Accounts manipulated. And just as questions start, he vanishes. No explanation. No trace. Authorities believe the suspect fled to avoid prosecution. Ethan let out a quiet breath. "Yeah, that's one way to tell it," he muttered. His fingers traced the edge of the paper. Because the truth? It wasn't that he ran. It was that he was pushed. But no one had asked him that. Not the police. Not his family. Not even once. The sound of footsteps outside his room snapped him back. He folded the paper quickly. Too quickly, like a kid hiding something. His mother's voice came through the door. "Ethan, you okay?" "Yeah," he said a little too fast. The door opened slightly. She stepped in, her eyes immediately scanning the room, then landing on him. "You've been up here a while?" "I was just going through old stuff." She nodded, but she didn't leave. Her eyes moved to the box beside him, then to his hands. "You found something?" There it was. That quiet tension again. Ethan hesitated, then slowly held up the clipping. Her expression changed instantly. Not surprise, not confusion. Something else. Something heavier. "You kept this?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. "I thought you threw it away," he added. She sighed softly and stepped further into the room. "I couldn't," she said. "Why?" Another pause. "Because I didn't know what to believe." Ethan laughed under his breath. Not because it was funny, but because it hurt. "You could have asked me." His mother looked at him. Really looked this time. "We tried." "No, you didn't." Her face tightened slightly. "We called. We went to your apartment. You were gone, Ethan." "Because someone warned me," he said quietly. That made her stop. "Warned you?" she repeated. Ethan nodded. "Someone from inside the company. They told me everything was about to fall on me." Her brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I didn't steal anything," he said, his voice steady now. "But someone needed it to look like I did." Silence filled the room. Thick, uncomfortable. "You're saying you were framed?" she asked. "I'm saying I was set up." She shook her head slightly. "But the reports, the evidence, were controlled by the same people who needed a scapegoat." Ethan's voice didn't rise, but it carried something stronger than anger. "Certainty. I didn't disappear to run," he continued. "I disappeared because if I didn't, I'd be in prison for something I didn't do. His mother sat down slowly on the edge of the bed, processing, or trying to. "Why didn't you come back?" she asked. Ethan looked at her, really looked, because this was the part that always broke him. "I did," he said. Her eyes snapped to his. "What?" "I came back 2 months later. I stood outside this house, just like I did the other day." She blinked. I knocked. Her lips parted slightly. No one answered. "That's not possible," she whispered. "I waited," Ethan said. I called. Over and over. She shook her head again. "We didn't get anything." Ethan didn't respond right away. Because now something else was clicking. Something that didn't sit right. "You changed numbers?" she asked. "No." "You sure?" "Yes." Silence again. But this time it wasn't just emotional. It was suspicious. Later that night, Ethan couldn't sleep. His mind kept replaying everything. The article, the conversation, the missing calls. It didn't add up. Not completely. And the more he thought about it, the more one question kept coming back. Who made sure his family never heard from him? He sat up in bed and grabbed his old phone. Surprisingly, it still worked. Barely. The battery flickered at 12%. He scrolled through old call logs, old messages, and then he saw it. Dozens of outgoing calls, all to one number. Home. Every single one marked as no answer. But that didn't make sense. Not completely. Because if no one answered, there should have been missed call notifications on the other side. Unless they never went through. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Unless someone blocked them," he whispered. But who would do that? And more importantly, how? The next morning he drove into town. Same streets, same buildings, but everything felt smaller somehow. Or maybe he just saw things differently now. He parked outside an old electronics store. The kind of place that looked outdated but still fixed things no one else could. Inside, a man in his late 50s looked up from behind the counter. "Help you?" he asked. Ethan held up the phone. "I need to check something." The man took it, adjusting his glasses. "Old model," he said. "Haven't seen one of these in a while. Can you pull call data? Like deeper logs?" The man raised an eyebrow. "Depends what you're looking for." Ethan leaned in slightly. "Anything that looks off." The man studied him for a second, then nodded. "Give me a few minutes." Ethan waited, heart beating a little faster than it should. Because if he was right, this wasn't just bad luck. This was planned. After a few minutes, the man called him over. "You're not going to like this," he said. Ethan stepped closer. "What is it?" The man turned the screen. "These calls?" He pointed. They didn't fail. Ethan's stomach dropped. "What?" "They were rerouted." "Rerouted where?" The man tapped a few more keys, then froze. "That's weird." "What?" The man looked up at him. "These didn't go to your home number." Ethan felt the ground shift under him. "Then where did they go?" The man hesitated, then slowly turned the screen again. Ethan stared at the number, because it wasn't familiar, not at all. But something about it felt wrong. "Can you trace it?" Ethan asked. The man nodded slowly. "I can try." Ethan stepped back, his mind racing now, because this meant one thing. Someone didn't just let him disappear. Someone made sure he stayed gone. From his family, from the truth, from everything. An hour later, Ethan stood outside a building he hadn't expected. Tall, clean, corporate. The kind of place that looked too polished to hide anything. But he knew better now. Because the number led here, and as he stared up at the glass doors, a memory hit him. Sharp, clear. This was it. The same company. The same place where everything started to fall apart. The same place that labeled him a criminal. The same place that erased him. Ethan clenched his jaw. "So, you didn't just take my job," he murmured. "You took my life." He stepped forward, pushed the door open, and walked inside. Back in the present, the TV volume was still low, but no one dared turn it up, because they didn't need to. They were already watching, already frozen. As the reporter continued speaking, authorities are now trying to identify the man who pulled 3 people out of a burning vehicle. The camera zoomed in slightly, closer to his face. Even through the oxygen mask, even through the injuries, it was him. No doubt. His sister slowly sat down, her hands shaking. "That's Ethan," she whispered. Their father didn't respond. Couldn't. Because his eyes were locked on the screen. And for the first time in years, there was something there. Something breaking through the distance. Regret. Real regret. Their mother covered her mouth, tears forming instantly. Because the man they thought had run away, the man they believed had betrayed them, was now being called a hero. By everyone else. But the truth? They still didn't know it. Not fully. Not yet. Because what Ethan walked into that building to find wasn't just evidence. It wasn't just answers. It was something far more dangerous. Something that explained everything. And something that powerful people would do anything to keep buried. And the moment he stepped into that office, he realized he was never supposed to come back at all. The glass doors shut behind him with a soft click. It didn't sound like much, but to Ethan, it felt final, like stepping into a place that had already decided how his story ends. The lobby hadn't changed. Same polished floors, same quiet hum of air conditioning, same front desk, but the feeling? Different, colder. A woman behind the desk looked up. Professional smile. "Can I help you?" Ethan walked toward her, steady but slow. "Yeah," he said. "I used to work here." Her fingers paused above the keyboard. "Name? Ethan Cole?" The smile faded just a little. Not gone, just thinner. "I'll need to check something," she said. "Of course." Ethan waited, watching her type, watching her eyes shift slightly as something popped up on her screen. Then she looked back at him. "You'll need an appointment." Ethan leaned lightly on the counter. "I don't think I do." Her tone tightened. "Sir, company policy—" "I'm not here for policy," he said quietly. "I'm here for the truth." For a second, neither of them spoke. Then a voice came from behind. "Let him through." Ethan turned, and there he was, Daniel Reeves. Same sharp suit, same controlled expression. Same man who once shook his hand and said, "You've got a future here." Funny how that worked out. Daniel walked closer, calm like nothing ever happened. "Ethan," he said, almost like greeting an old friend. "Didn't expect to see you again." Ethan gave a small nod. "Yeah, I get that a lot." Daniel gestured toward the elevators. "Come on, let's talk somewhere private." The office upstairs was too clean, too quiet. The kind of room where nothing feels real. Daniel closed the door behind them. "No rush, no panic, just control." "I'm guessing you didn't come here for nostalgia," he said. Ethan didn't sit. "I want to know why." Daniel tilted his head slightly. "Why what?" "Why me?" There it was. Simple, direct, no room to dodge. Daniel studied him for a moment, then sighed. Not out of guilt, more like inconvenience. "You were convenient," he said. Ethan felt something inside him snap into focus. "That's it?" "You were trusted. Clean record, close enough to the system to make it believable." Ethan shook his head slowly. "So you framed me." Daniel didn't react. Careful with that word. "Why?" Ethan stepped closer. "Does it make it too real?" Daniel's expression hardened just a bit. "You're not as important as you think, Ethan." Ethan laughed once. Short, sharp. "No. I figured that out when my own family stopped looking for me." That landed, just slightly. Daniel walked to his desk, picked up a file, tossed it lightly in front of Ethan. "Everything's in there," he said. "Transactions, reports, statements." Ethan didn't touch it. "Fake." Daniel shrugged. "Convincing." Silence. "Heavy." "You ruined my life," Ethan said. Daniel looked at him. Cold. "You walked away from it." "No," Ethan replied. "You made sure I had no way back." That's when Daniel's expression changed. Just a little. Because now, Ethan wasn't guessing anymore. "I know about the calls," Ethan said. Daniel froze, barely noticeable. But enough. Ethan stepped closer. "They didn't go to my house. They were redirected." Daniel didn't answer. "I want to know where," Ethan said. A long pause. Then Daniel smiled. Not friendly. Not warm. Just resigned. "You really shouldn't have come back," he said quietly. That was it. Confirmation. Ethan's chest tightened. "Where did they go?" he demanded. Daniel looked at him. Straight. No one who answers that question walks out clean. Ethan held his gaze. "I've already lost everything." Daniel nodded slowly. "Exactly." Silence stretched again. But this time it wasn't uncertainty. It was a decision being made. Finally, Daniel spoke. "They were routed to a private line," he said. "Internal." Ethan frowned. "Internal to what?" Daniel's eyes didn't move. "To someone who needed your silence." Ethan's mind raced. "Who?" But Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he leaned back slightly. "You should leave," he said. Ethan didn't move. "Who?" he asked again. Daniel's voice dropped. "Your father." The room went completely still. Ethan blinked. Once. Twice. Like his brain refused to process it. "What?" Daniel didn't repeat it. He didn't need to. Ethan stepped back slowly. "No," he said under his breath. "That's not—" "No." Daniel didn't argue. Didn't explain. Just watched. And that silence said more than anything else could. Back at the house, the TV was still on. Still replaying the same footage. Different angles now. Different witnesses. "He didn't even hesitate," one man said. "The car was on fire and he just ran in." Another voice. "I thought he wasn't going to make it out." Their mother sat frozen, tears still falling. Their father hadn't moved. Not once. Not since the moment he saw Ethan's face on that screen. His hands were clenched tight. Too tight. Because deep down, he already knew. This moment was coming. He just didn't think it would look like this. Ethan stood outside the building again. But everything felt different now. He couldn't hear the city. Couldn't feel the air. Just one sentence echoing in his head. "Your father." "No," he whispered. "There's no way." But the pieces, they started fitting too well. The missed calls, the unanswered door, the distance, the silence. And suddenly, it wasn't random anymore. It was chosen. Ethan stepped back, his breathing uneven now.
Why would he do that?
He asked out loud. But the answer didn't come. Not yet. Hours later, sirens filled the hospital entrance. The same stretcher rushed inside. Doctors moving fast, voices overlapping, severe smoke inhalation, pulse dropping.
Get oxygen, now!
Ethan's body barely reacted, but his hand twitched slightly. A small movement, almost nothing, but enough. Back, in the waiting area, a nurse walked out. Family of the unidentified male? Silence. No one stood, because for years, he didn't have one. The nurse looked around again. Anyone? That's when the door opened, and 3 people stepped in. Breathless, shaken, unsure. His mother, his sister, and behind them, his father. The nurse looked at them. Are you related to the patient? A pause, a long one. Then his mother spoke. Yes, she said, her voice breaking. That's my son. The nurse nodded quickly. He's in critical condition. We need to know if he has any medical history. I know, she said. I know everything. But her voice didn't sound confident. It sounded like someone trying to hold on to something that was already slipping. Inside the room, machines beeped steadily. Ethan lay still, bandaged, bruised, barely holding on. His sister stepped closer first, tears falling freely now. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have come. I should have looked for you. His mother followed, her hands trembling as she reached for his. I didn't know, she said softly. I didn't know. Then his father stepped forward, slow, heavy, like every step carried years of weight. He stood at the edge of the bed, looking down at the son he had erased. For a long moment he said nothing. Then finally, I did. The room went silent. His mother turned sharply. What? His father didn't look at her. I knew the calls were coming, he said quietly. Ethan's sister shook her head. No, that's not. I blocked them. The words landed like a shockwave. His mother stepped back. Why? She whispered. His father finally looked at them, eyes filled with something they had never seen before. Guilt, raw, unfiltered. Because I believed the story, he said. And I thought, if he was gone, maybe it was better for all of us. Tears ran down his face. I thought I was protecting this family. His voice broke. But I was just destroying it. Silence. No one knew what to say. Because how do you respond to that? How do you forgive something like that? A soft sound broke through the moment. A change in the machine. Everyone turned. Ethan's fingers moved again. This time, stronger. His eyes fluttered slightly. The nurse rushed in. Stay back, she said. But no one moved. Because for the first time in years, they weren't walking away. They weren't ignoring him. They were finally there. Ethan's eyes opened slowly. Blurry, unfocused, but alive. His gaze shifted, landed on the faces around him. His family. All of them. For a moment, no one spoke. Then his mother whispered, Ethan. He stared at her, trying to process, trying to understand. And then his eyes moved to his father, and everything changed. Because now, he knew. And the real question wasn't what happened in the past anymore. It was this: what do you do when the people who forgot you are the same ones who finally remember? Because sometimes being seen again hurts more than being invisible ever did.